Hello everyone, this is Muted and Nuts, and today we'll be continuing with our beginner-friendly Road to OSCP video series. Today we'll be looking at another hack-the-box machine, that is Valentine. Valentine is a Linux machine and it is rated as easy, so let's just quickly get started. So first thing what I always do is I run an auto recon scan, and auto recon tool can be found on GitHub. You can go and get it from there. And auto recon tool basically does nmap scan first, like it does a full TCP nmap scan, then it will do a quick TCP nmap scan. So once it does a scan, it will find few ports and services open, right? So then later on it will go and enumerate things more further over there. So it's not always recommended to actually just run this entire script and rely on this. You obviously have to know how to manually do it as well, so we'll be looking more into that in the upcoming videos as well. Okay, so in the previous video also we had seen that we had done this SSH connection, so we could not find that particular in our full TCP and map scan the results. So it's not always recommended to have it, but it's good tool. Like most of the time, it's going to give you 90% of the information you need. So that's why I use auto recon. So you can use that, and then later on I'll be using this as I'll be running this as sudo because I want to run it as root. I want to run that UDP scan over here, otherwise the UDP scan won't work. And I'll be giving Python 3 over here because I want to run it as Python 3, and be giving the directory where this autorecon.py file is present. I'll be giving the target IP address, that is 10.10.10.79 in the case of Valentine, and also I'll be giving the directory where I want to save this file as. So I already did execute this scan, so I don't want to run it again. It takes some time to run. So I'll just go and look at the full TCP nmap scan. This is the first thing I do. And if you see that there are multiple ports open over here, that is port 22, port 80 and 443, that is HTTPS. Okay, so SSH is running, so 80 and 443 is present, right? So let's just go and check for that particular port. So we can just put probably HTTP 70, not 75, 79. Okay, so we have this particular image present over. It says like this heart smiley or something, and women screaming over there. So let's just go at the page source, and it says actually the image present. So this OMG image, right? So this is the image present over here. Nothing much. We do not get much information in the source as well. So we'll just quickly look at HTTPS as well. HTTPS, yeah. Just look at it, and we have this particular another same image present, but as 443 as well as 80 have the same thing present. So what we'll do is we'll just go and run a GoBuster scan now. Okay, and so I just check for if I don't find anything interesting, I go and look for GoBuster scan. So I run GoBuster. Before that I need a word list, right? So I'll just go and check for any common word list or something like that present. So just do locate common txt. So I'll be using this dope word list present, and I think the Kali machine has it already present, right? So you can just do locate and find that common txt file. Okay, so now once I get that particular txt file, I'll just cat it and just show the contents present inside. So it's basically list of directories and words. So there are like around 4,000 entries. Okay, 4,000 plus entries. It's like Yahoo, UShop, YouTube. So these are the directories which is going to test us. So GoBuster, what GoBuster will do is it'll be like it will take this URL first from us. Okay, I'll just quickly show you how it works. So we'll do GoBuster. We'll be giving the URL. We can give HTTPS as well as HTTP over here. Okay, so we give this URL, right? So we'll just give HTTP for now, and then later we'll be giving word list. So this is this common txt. Okay, so now what this will do is we are giving the word list, right? We are feeding the word list. So GoBuster will check. It will send like multiple folders over like YouTube, okay, or version, or sorry, word, or something like vendor. It will check for multiple folders, whichever is present in this particular word list. Okay, in these 4,000 entries like Zap, Zones, Zoom, Zope, all these kind of things. So it's gonna send, and then later on it will be like I'm sending Zope. GoBuster is sending Zope. Server is responding with like, hey, this does not exist. This directory is not present. So GoBuster will analyze that and it will not give you that output. So you probably add word. So it'll be like this directory is present, but you're not authorized to use it. So based on the HTTP response code, so it will GoBuster will analyze and it will give you the output. Then it will be like, okay, there is another folder which is probably like test. So server will be like, yeah, this directory exists and you have access to read it as well. Okay, so it's not only for that, you can obviously have some admin PHP kind of files as well. And the server will probably respond like, okay, this particular file exists. So GoBuster will analyze that and it will tell you, in short, it will tell you that out of these, you found some working directories present over here. Okay, so since we did not have any much information when we did view page source, that's it. We just have this one page, nothing else. So let's just go and use GoBuster then. So then I'll be giving the O switch as well for output, and we can probably mention it as GoBuster AT and common TXT or something like that. Okay, so I did already run the scan and I got the results present, and let's just go and check. Another thing what I wanted to mention is we'll just take this. We can add extensions as well. So this is what I always do nowadays, that I add extensions. So that is TXT, then it is like your PL, py, sh. These are the files which are present. Like, so what this extension switch will do is, first when it reaches zone, right? Sorry, so zone will check, this GoBuster will check for zone first. Then it will be like, okay, now you check for zone plus the extension, that is zone txt dot txt. Then it will check for zone dot pl. Then it will check for zone dot py. Then it will check for zone dot sh. So this is how the extension work. So I did already run the scan and I'll just look at the results. So we see that we have multiple directories present. So obviously I saw CGI bin, so I thought obviously shell shock vulnerability. So I tried and enumerate this thing using GoBuster CGI bin, but I did not find anything over here. Okay, so if we could have found some files, so probably we could have used shell shock exploit over there. So I could not find anything present over there. So we have these particular directories present. So let's just go and look at the decode, folder directory. Okay, and let's just go and look at it. Not the directory, but yeah, decode. So once you enter decode over here, it's like say something secure decode or something. It has an input field. Probably you can probably check if there is some SQL injection or something. Does not look like. And also you can probably go and enter some data and see if in the, probably you can check if there's some equal to sign, so that you can have some LFI or something present. But obviously it just gives you some output. Okay, it does not mention anything. If you do view page source, does not mention as well over here. Does not mention anything. It just says some ID. It's sending some ID as TXT. That's it. So okay, so we do not have any much information. We have something where it says like click here to use the encoder. So probably if you enter this is the encoder and the previous one was the decoder. So encode PHP and decode PHP, I guess. So this is decode PHP, and this decode PHP is the same thing, which is present. If you use this, it's like, so it's the same decoder which is present. So that is not, we do not find anything useful. Obviously, it's like, encoder, decoder, that's it. So I think we found these two. We checked this two. Obviously, this thing, I did run the GoBuster scan, could not find anything. So let's just check for this dev directory over here. So once you come to dev directory, there's like hype key and nodes. So let's just go and open both. And it's like some hex output over here. So let's just go and copy it first. Okay, so let's just try and convert it. So create a new document, probably hype key txt. We'll paste this, and also I saved it in loot because that's how we got the information, right? So just to keep it organized. Okay, so then it says like nodes, something like fix encoder, decoder, and do something. Not much useful information. We do not have something over here, and so probably let's just leave this. We have the hype key, so probably just it says like hype key. So most likely it's like a user hype. That's his key over here. So let's just try and try and change it to the right format since it is hex. So we'll just go to our root folder and we'll be doing cat hype key.txt. So this is the content which is present, right? So we have this hex value over here. So we need to convert it into your ASCII text. Okay. So we'll be using XXD for that. So XXD is a tool which is present. So it actually converts your ASCII text to the hexadecimal value. so X dump. So I don't want to do that. I want to do the reverse. So I'll be using the R switch. So in base 64 we give the D switch, right? So that way I'll be giving the R switch, as well as if you check over here XSD help, it says like you can output it to PostScript plain text hex dump style. So we'll be using the PS switch as well over here. So I'll be using that and R switch as well as the PS switch. Okay, so first obviously I'll be doing cat and hype uh, key txt, and then I'll be piping this output. So first I'll cat this particular content, I'll cat this, so that means this thing will get, it will display over here, it will be present, and then I'll be piping it. So whatever contents are present over here, right? So it's gonna change that using XXD, and it will be giving the R switch, right? So it will change it to ASCII form, and obviously you're giving this PS as well. So let's just see what output we get. So it looks like we have a RSA private key present over here, and it is obviously encrypted as well. So we have the private key present. So what I can do further is obviously I can just copy paste from here, but I don't like messing up on the terminal because sometimes you have that enter or something like that. So I'll just go and try and output it to the hype key file which was present earlier, right? The original file. So I'll just create that. Okay, so I'll do cat hype key now. So it's the same thing present. So we have that hype key saved. So what we can do is obviously that file is present, but it is encrypted. So we require a passphrase for that to decrypt the key first, then use it. Then only we'll be able to use it somewhere. So now obviously SSH is open. So if we do not have that key, we cannot enter it, right? So we require the passphrase present. So now we have done everything. We do not have anything much. So obviously we'll just go and look at further scan results, what GoBuster gave us. So we'll be looking at HTTP 80. We do not find anything useful over here. We'll be looking at the 443 Nmap scan. And if we scroll over here, we see that this particular 443 port is vulnerable to this SSL CCX injection. And I actually tried tried to find some exploit and tried to play with it, but then I could not find any thing useful over here. So you guys can go and probably check it out. Then comes your SSL Heartbleed, okay, and it says that it is vulnerable over here. Okay, so it looks like TLS 1.0 SSL version 3 is up and running, and it is enabled on the server. So that's why probably this Heartbleed bug is working as well. So let's just check for this particular exploit Heartbleed. Okay, so I'll be going to exploit directory first using search exploit and Heartbleed. There are multiple vulnerabilities, exploits present over here. You can probably go and check. So I'll probably just check this py exploit. So I'll just take that memory disclosure. We're giving search exploit again. I'll be giving the M switch now. So what M switch will do is I'll paste this, right. So once I hit enter, it's gonna save it in my current working directory, the exploit. Okay, so I got this. Now I'll be just checking the exploit directory, checking for the code over here. Okay, obviously you don't have to check out much, and you don't have to know what it is doing exactly, but it is trying to get some additional information from the server. So we'll check for the usage if we want to have to modify something. I don't think we have to modify anything on this code. We have to just give sorry, you have to give the exploit name and then the server. That's it. I don't think we have to give anything else. Port by default is 443, so we are testing on that, so we don't even have to give the port number. Okay, so we'll just go check for this exploit. Okay, we don't need the exploit now. We'll just check LSLA. It's executable, like we can execute it. So Python 32745.py, and we'll be given the IP address of the server, that is 10.10.10.79. That is target machine's IP address. Okay, so once we hit that, it says like we get a huge list and it says 00, but in the end it says warning, server return more data than it should, server is vulnerable. Okay, so what, just quickly check. Okay, so we have some data present over here, but obviously these things are 0, but we have some data present. And if we look over here, this is the useful information present. Okay, and it says like message received, variable, and something like sending heartbeat request, and then it's in something like that. Okay, okay, fine. So now we know that this thing is vulnerable. Obviously we want to avoid this 0000 thing. So one quiet thing what I would do is I'll use the exploit again, but now I'll be using grep and the v switch. So what the V switch will do is it's the opposite. So when we use grep, right, without any switch and we enter something, so it will only display the lines whatever we have entered. Like suppose if I enter 00 over here, so if I remove the switch, so it will only display the lines where 00 is present, right? But with V, oh sorry, that is the one with I, okay? So with V, what will happen is it will display the lines where 00 is not present, okay? So it's going to do the opposite. So we obviously will not enter 00 only, we'll enter the entire string over here, which is 000, or we can enter this dot 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 as well, but we'll just enter the 000, okay, and we'll press enter. And now it looks like we got the information which is present over here, like what we need. We don't have to scroll up and everything. We got something. And we got some information present, like oh, just consider this and thing only, like this thing over here. Don't consider this thing, just look at this particular thing. We got some data present over here, it's present in bits and pieces, not much useful. So what we'll do is we have to run this exploit multiple times to actually give us some actual useful information. And the reason why we enter the entire 00 line is because see sometimes there are like few zeros present over here, right? So it will not display that. Okay, so let's just go and run the exploit multiple times and see if we get something. So over here we have something present and it says like there was some request made to decode PHP, and obviously it looks like an HTTP request, and it has a parameter which is text, and this is the input which was given. Okay, so let's just take and copy paste it. So we'll just take the entire content, copy selection. We can go to this cherry tree. We don't require that hexadecimal value, right? So we'll just delete it. Okay, so it looks like there was some text request made, and obviously this is a text parameter which was entered. We can obviously just cross verify when we are gone to the decode page, right? The ID over here is text, as well as if we just probably check inspect element. We don't require burp suite. We can obviously check that with burp suite as well, but in the browser itself, since it's better and faster over here. So we'll just check for network, and I'll just try to submit this request, and we'll check for network again. So probably it sent a post request, right? And if we check over here the parameters, it says like we had sent a text parameter, that is ASDS. So it's the same thing over here, this text. Okay, so that means they have sent some particular parameter present over here. So let's just take and copy paste it. I'll just paste the entire thing because this is how the actually like a encoded input would look like, the equal to in the end. Okay, so you can probably check with Y as well, but obviously this is a better way. I don't think Y would give us some useful information. Okay, so we'll just take that. So we have this thing present over here. We'll take it, copy it, okay, and then later on we'll just go to our decode page and we'll paste it, and it says like your input was this and your encoded input was something heartbleed believe the hype or something like that. Okay, so let's just copy it and paste that as well over here. Okay, so now we got this heartbleed believe the hype, right? So for first thing is that this heartbleed bug, how it works is, so it is actually like suppose this is your memory, right? It's trying to leak extra information from your memory. Okay. So if this is your memory, this is the server's memory. Just for example, obviously this is a dummy example. So this is a memory, right? These are the multiple files present over here in your memory, in your server's memory, target machines. So what this heartbleed bug is doing, so what this exploiter is doing is, it'll be like, hey, it's gonna request you for something, and it will be like the length should be probably something or something like that. That I'm going to request you, and the length should be something. So that means the length should be probably 2 words. Okay, just consider that way. Obviously, you have to consider in characters, but just consider 2 words. So the server will respond with this probably. Okay, so now I'm requesting you with something, and it should be like the length should be this particular 5 words. The actual request is only 5 words, so I'm requesting also for 5 words. So the server is sending you. But now the request is actually sufficient for 5 words. But I'm like, hey, you know what? I need extra information. I need the length to be probably like 10 or 15 words. So server will be like, okay, so this bug is basically that. It'll be like, okay, take extra information. So that's why when we run this particular exploit, we find something like server return more data than it should. Server is vulnerable. So that's how this heartbeat bug works. Okay, so it, we are requesting for some additional information and it discloses information to the server. Okay, so if you guys want, then you can probably go and check it out on Google more. Okay, so now we have this particular file present. Okay, so after a lot of things, we got some value over here. So what we'll do is, since our SSH key was encrypted, right, we'll try and use this particular file with that particular thing. Sorry, with the SSH key, that password, not the password, yeah, but the passphrase with that SSH key. Another thing is, I actually tried running, converting that particular encrypted file to SSH to John. So I tried to convert it into John format, and I did run John with the word list, but I was not able to retrieve any actual passphrase over this. I was not able to decrypt it. So I did run that and I was not successful. So obviously that's why we had to go and check out for more things. Okay, so let's just quickly go and SSH into it. So we'll be using the I switch to give the ID, but I think the ID is present in the root folder. So let's just go over there. Okay, we have the hype key. So we obviously first thing we have to manage the permission, otherwise SSH will be like, you're giving too many permissions to users. So let's just have it as 600 hype key. Okay, now we'll do SSH. I include the hype key over here. So hype key and the user hype, because obviously it's mentioned as the naming is mentioned like hype and then key. So we'll just enter this as the first guess. Usually it's ID RSA or something like that. So we'll just enter this because it mentioned like hype and key. So okay, so we have this, we enter, and obviously it will take some time and it'll ask for the passphrase. So let's just take and copy paste this passphrase over here once it loads. Just close these things. Okay, so it's asking for a passphrase. I'll just paste that passphrase. Okay, so we are in the system over here. So that means the password was correct and it decrypted our key first and then it gave that SSL, certificate handshake and everything, checking the certificates. Okay, so we are in the system as user hype. If you do who am I, as well as ID, as well as ifconfig. Okay, so we have this particular information over here. So we are in the system as hype. We have the ID as 1000 and we have the ifconfig, that is the target machine's IP address. Okay, so first thing I'll just go and check LSLA. We'll go to the desktop folder over here, LSLA, and we get a user text file over here. Okay, so we'll go back and we do LSL again, and we see that we have some tmux configuration file present over here. It's like, it is actually the owner is root. So let's just quickly check for that if we find anything useful. Okay, so it says like clone part resurrect tmux or something like that. Okay, run shell clone part. So let's just take this and check as well if we find anything useful. Just go to the clone part first. Okay. Okay, it says like no such path or directory. Okay, so let's just go back to our root directory. So I don't think there is some clone thing present over here. Okay, so what we'll do is next thing, clone is not present over here as well. Okay, so first thing I always do is in a Linux box, best thing I do is check sudo l. If I can run any commands that sudo without any password, and it will ask for password over here. So it will ask for password 3 times, and even if I enter that hype thing, it does not work. So that is not the actual password because that was the password for the certificate. Okay, so I did sudo l, then I'll obviously check for uname as well. The system kernel information, but obviously this version is exploitable as well using a kernel exploit, but I'm not going to show that in this video. And I think we should avoid kernel exploits since it's a OSCP path. So I know sometimes the intended way, but the intended way over here is something different. So let's just look at that. Okay, so then I check sudo l and then I check uname, and then obviously that file, the root file which was there, I checked for that right first because I wanted to see, because something should not be present over here. It's something unique. So I check for that first, and I check for just check for multiple things, and then I'll probably get a lean enum and I'll check for that. Other thing what I do is I check for PSAUX as well, and check for the list of processes which are running, And if we just quickly go at the list of processes, okay, so most of them are running as root, obviously. So we see this tmux session over here, okay. So we have this tmux session present over here. It's giving the S switch for socket, and it looks like the socket location is this dev session or something like that, okay, and belongs to root over here. So the session is, the owner is root because it's created by root. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just go to this directory which was present, okay, and see if we have such some useful information. So let's just go LSLA. Okay, so we have this .devs directory as well, which is very uncommon because it is not usually present. The devs directory is present. So let's just go over there. CD devs, we'll do LSLA. We have the socket file present over here. Okay, so dev session over here, and we have read write permissions over here because of, see, okay, first we'll do one thing. We'll just quickly look at the groups because this is obviously not the user. This is the user, that is the owner, and this is the group. Okay, so we'll just check for which group we belong to, and we belong to the group hype as well. So we have read write permissions over here. So this particular file has read write permissions. So what we'll do is just quickly go on Google and check for tmux socket, because the socket file is present over here, right? This is the socket file which is present. So let's just look at that. If we find something useful, select persistent tmux session with shared socket. Okay, take this. Okay, it mentioned about something like, create a session with a shared session, something like that. So if you look at this GitHub page over here, and if you look at session sharing, it says like you can create a tmux session giving the S switch, that is a socket. And first thing, it's like it can be shared with another user who has read write access to the socket. Okay, so we have read write access, right? So I think our first condition is successful, that we have read write access because we belong to hype group. Okay, so we have read write access over here. And other thing is that obviously, yeah, it says like, you have to add new session, and probably later on you have to attach that session over here. But the thing is, when if you look at the PS AUX, so it says like your user root is running this particular file over here. Okay, you did run this file by giving the S switch and only the socket. Okay, so first thing, obviously, I'll just go and try and use that as well. Okay, I'll just take this entire thing probably and can use it, or I can just use tmux. But I just don't want to save it because what if this file path was not saved? So I'll just use this entire directory and check what happens. Okay, so I use this tmux. I'll give the S and I'll give the dev session. Because over here in the particular file, it mentions that another user can use it. Can share the session can be shared with another user who has read write access. So we do have read write access over here. So if we did not have read write access, probably we cannot use it. So what will happen? Obviously, you guys know what tmux is. Tmux is like, terminal, like how this particular terminal is present, right? Kali terminal. So that way tmux. Obviously, if you all watch IPSEC videos, you all will be very much aware what tmux is. Okay, so I'll just enter, and I have a tmux session over here. Okay, so this is opened inside my terminal, and if we see, we are in the system as root, it looks like. So if I do who am I, we are in the system as well. Who am I? I'll just do ID. Okay, so that means we are in the system as root, and obviously we can get our root file over here. We go to cd root. Okay, and we have this particular root file as well. Okay, so this is how we did it, and we got the root session. And just because we had the read write permissions over there, and tmux looked a bit uncommon because obviously that should not be present in the processes, so that's why we looked at it first. And if I just press exit over here, it will close that tmux session. Okay, so we come back to the user hype. So obviously I'll just try and run it again because I want to show you something else. Because when I saw that, I was like wondering that, okay, so this particular decode file, probably I found it and hacked the box because some user might have gone and tried to decode that particular input, right? Something. So somehow this particular user might have gotten that. Or it would be like this is somewhat like a cron job or something which is running. Okay, so this is like a cron job which is running. So that means when we do this heartbleed bug, right, it's gonna give us that information. Okay, that TEX, this particular parameter. So it's gonna give us that. So probably there'll be some job present over there to make things work properly, and so that using Heartbleed vulnerability, we are going to find this. So if you check for cd root, if you do lsla, so there's this curl.sh file present as well. So let's just scat it and see what it does. So it is that particular actual file which will do a post request, and it's gonna add some session ID obviously, and it's gonna add this text parameter present. Okay, and it's gonna do it in PHP over here. Okay, and on the local host. So obviously local host is listening something. Now comes another thing. Like obviously this is something extra. If you go and check the dev folder, we have this, it say like fix decoder encoder before going live, and it says make sure encoding decoding is only done on the client side. So that means on the server side it is not going to happen. So he wants to do it on the client side, but obviously in the server side it is running, it's listening. So we'll just probably look at netstat as well. And okay, okay, it's probably okay. I'll exit from this because I'm not very familiar with tmux. We do not require that. Okay, netstat. And okay, so we see that we have this local host running on this particular port, I guess. So if we do this, we try and send a curl request over here on this particular IP and this particular port, probably it will trigger that particular file. Okay, so that's how I think it works, and that's how that particular information is present, so that we use this Heartbleed vulnerability and we get that information. Okay, so that was obviously some job setup, so even if it is present in the exam or something, we'll get that information. Okay, so that's it for this video, and I hope you guys liked it. If you guys liked it, give a thumbs up and do subscribe for more upcoming videos as well. Okay, thank you.